It should, in theory, be the right thing. What do you call it? Encoder. Yes, on the right channel. Yeah, it is. I'm not doing an introduction. Say hello, Caeruleus.
Hello, Caeruleus.
Congratulations, you got it right. Figured we'd talk about Men's International Day. International Men's. Which way round is it?
International Men's Day.
Right. See, I'd actually forgotten it this year, until I realised that I was going to stream today because I forgot to yesterday, and then realised that it happened to be that because I remember seeing a video that was popping up as an ad. There are these videos on this channel specifically for International Men's Day. Men's International. I'll keep forgetting that. And he'd done this 4 to 5 minute video talking about it, which I thought was quite. Yeah, it was on a new channel with just individuals doing short speeches. It was quite nice, actually. Although I did notice a considerable amount of shit with regards to people's perceptions of International Men's Day. I know you have. So why don't you start?
Start with what?
All the bad stuff. Oh, by the way, I normally put an avatar of people on the couch, but I don't have one for you.
Which one do you want? I have my one that I use for my channel AV, or the ones that I use for my videos.
Just whatever. Send one to me on Discord, and I'll drag it in.
Yeah.
And then you can start telling me the delightful tales of the tolerant Twitter users.
Yes. The feminists have been making the rounds again.
Yes, I've got a few images, and we're going to talk about those. Down with the moist. I'll time you out.
You should have it.
Oh, yes I do. Okay, I'll drag that over in a sec. I would say it looks just like you, but, well, you don't wear that shirt.
I used to when I was a kid.
I had this shirt for the longest time. It's really gay. It was a green plaid shirt, and I loved it. I had it for most of my teens as well, but somebody stole it. I'm not happy with that. Anyway, do you want to tell everyone about your delightful tales?
Well, my delightful tales are basically just arguing with feminists who seem to want to blame quote-unquote toxic masculinity and patriarchy on men's issues.
Yeah, I actually saw a tweet. Marking Bad put it brought it up on B-List Sunday Fundy, which I will show everyone in a second. I've made you very. Oh fuck it! I'm not even gonna put you on the couch. Fuck it! You can just go there. Actually, yeah, I'll get the.
Have me standing behind the couch.
Because it's not a PNG. I'll have to do it. I'll do it another time. I will set it up so that it is a PNG and with a separate white backdrop. That would make it a little bit more interesting.
That would help.
Right, I actually have an image of some very intolerant Men's International. No, not that one.
International Men's Day.
Batland. International Men's Day. Thank you. I will keep forgetting that. Browse.
Just think of it as IMD.
Right, here we go. High male suicide rates can be understood as the collateral damage associated with epidemic male violence. There must be an overall benefit to the oppressor class, or the end goal wouldn't be worth the collateral damage. So what's the end goal that justifies male violence? It's male supremacy. Dominion over the female sex class. Hierarchy within the male sex class. That's the root cause of male violence, hence high male suicide rates. And yes, Carlos, happy International Patriarchy Day. I didn't get a sandwich today, which really disappointed me. This tweet
it disappointed me as well.
Really pissed me off because it's just so. I don't know. It's wrong. It's so wrong. I might just leave it here for the remainder of this stream because it's. I mean, if people want to go and tweet to this lovely, delightful person, by all means do so. Give her the criticism you feel is just in the manner you choose. I'm not going to tell you what to do. If you want to harass someone, go for it.
No, I'd rather not harass people.
Yeah, well, you've been banned off Twitter enough times.
Yeah.
There was another
I just,
tweet. Sorry?
I mean, I'm gonna obviously log in on incognito mode on Twitter because obviously
Yeah.
I think I'm IP banned. But if you do incognito mode and never log in on other phone, you bypass that.
Yeah, here we go. Marking Bad brought this up on Sunday Funday. A band called Calling All Astronauts that look like the gay bell end version of The Cure. Possibly one of the most pointless things ever. In hashtag International Men's Day. Yes, I'll also leave that one up because, yeah, I can go like here for the remainder of the stream. Bit small.
I mean, I put out a tweet earlier that's getting a lot of attention.
If I thought about it, I would have actually gone with the Happy Patriarchy Day and tweeted that out a bit.
Yeah.
What did you put out?
I'll send it to you on.
Yes.
Yeah, so that you can obviously show it on.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is set up a little bit differently, so I can't just screen share.
Yeah. Which is a shame. They need to add that feature, and then Hangouts will truly be gone.
Yeah, I think so. It's certainly. This is easier, and certainly more aesthetically. I think it's better. But then I know people like Red Robot. He still uses Hangouts through XSplit. 3. Okay, I've done that. I'll show everyone the tweet. Give me a second. You can read it. Give me a second. Once I've got it up, I'll let you know. Because you won't see it on time, will you? Browse number 3. Okay, by all means, read it.
It's dear the feminists berating men on hashtag International Men's Day. Why don't you put the same effort into getting the gendered rape law changed than you do for blaming quote-unquote patriarchy and quote-unquote masculinity for men's issues? Why not address your toxic femininity?
Do you think that their aggressiveness towards this is a type of toxic femininity?
Well, yeah. What else can you call it? It berates, belittles, and discriminates against men. They also show what's the word I'm looking for? Disgust. Disdain, and
it's pretty much hatred towards men. The Claire OT tweet. Oh yeah. The Claire tweet talking about equating male suicide rates, as collateral damage, and epidemic of male violence. A lot of male suicide rates come from issues that are far more simple, pressures that are overlooked that are placed upon some guys. From work, loss of work, of course. We just don't. I mean, a lot of guys. I was raised this way to not express myself, and in doing so it does get to the point where you get overwhelmed sometimes. How do you talk about that when you're raised not to? And that can lead to a lot of issues with guys, and the suicide rate is not down to freaking violence, which is why that tweet is so inherently offensive.
Well, yeah, it's mainly because you sit there and like I did a video. It's called the Duluth model. Or Let's Talk the Duluth model. It basically goes through the way we use the Duluth model here in the UK. It's the fact that we don't allow men to do things that ail them. Right. So, like, if men are victims of domestic violence, there's no resources there available to get him help. They're all aimed at women. Yeah.
That reminds me of the do you remember not so long, it was a couple of years ago I think, the shelters that were told in the UK that they had to designate funding to help both male and female victims.
There was shelters that and they are down rather than to let men in.
Yeah, and they protested at the suffragettes' premiere because they lost their funding because they didn't do as they were told. I remember. I think I did a video on that long ago. Oh dear.
Probably did. I think that was just before I started YouTube, which is nearly 2 years.
Yeah, because I've been on about 2.5 years. So it must have been really early on. I thought it was funny. I might put it in like an exhibition of stupidity video. Because that was quite special.
Yeah, I think it was one of those.
Yeah. What do you think about the idea of, like last year, before certain tragic incidents happened, there was that talk that's quite famous, that viral laughing at Phil Davis. He's a bellend, so I can understand it. But the wanting to discuss in Parliament male suicide rates, you know, rather than do what a lot of people do, and that's just simply look to, I would say, pigeonhole, because that's what it is. Oh, look, lots of people are killing themselves. If it's a lot of women, men will be blamed for it. Societal standards, it's all men's fault, but if it's men, it's all men's fault.
Yeah. I mean, there's been about a 15 or something % rise in women killing themselves, and it's front page news. Yeah,
that's terrible. But the fact that it's also
there's
ignored,
men.
Yeah, the fact that men are ignored is ridiculous. I do want to oh fuck it! There was a point I really wanted to make and I forgot it. What was it? Oh yes, no. What was it? Talking about suicide. What the fuck was it? Oh my god! It was there and I lost it. Oh well. No, never coming back now. Fuck it. Moving on. No, there was something. It really bugs me because I had something, and then you made a good point, and I completely forgot what I was going to say, which was actually something relevant. I was talking about male suicide in Parliament. Oh, no. Bollocks. I give up. Oh, by the way, happy Patriarchy Day.
Happy Patriarchy Day. Do you think it's Do you think it was anything to do with? Do you think they should talk about it in Parliament rather than just
I think
spending all their time talking about women's issues?
The interesting thing is, I've heard them talk a lot. I watch PMQs every time it's on. I watch it not live, but I watch it from the UK Parliament channel, and I have done for a long time. And women's issues get brought up a lot. And I'm not getting petty here, but it's very rare that men's issues get brought up, because other MPs seem to scoff at this, and I don't think they understand the magnitude of the issue. And I think that's really sad.
They don't.
It's just how out of touch they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it comes to something, because this was another post I put. It's like, dear feminists, along the lines of, to the feminists saying that every day is men's days, when your issues can get literally laughed at to stop derailing women, it's not every day.
Actually, there is something I really want to quickly check. Give me a sec. I want to see if Jeremy Corbyn or Jess Phillips or Theresa May said anything about this.
I don't.
Jeremy Corbyn in block capitals, because you're a bellend. It'd be interesting, because if they did, I'd be very. Let's see. You got. I'm delighted to support Mitzvah Day. Nice. Wednesday's budget from 11 hours ago. Royal Mail. No, he didn't talk about Patriarchy Day. I'm very disappointed in this. Although it would be interesting to see if I hashtag international. Yeah, first thing that comes up. Be nice to quickly reel off any interesting. Cassie J. Hey Google, why no hashtag Google Doodle for hashtag International Men's Day?
I mean, YouTube didn't even put out a video for International Men's Day like they did for International Women's Day and International Day of the Girl and every other day women have during the year.
Yeah. Some black guy tweets that, in honour of hashtag International Men's Day, here's a gif of the manliest moment in cinema history, I think it's a scene from Predator with lots of guns going off.
Yeah, Predator.
So, there was an image I showed originally, and I'll bring it back up because I got it off Twitter. Somebody had obviously made something rather than pointing out some of the key issues that men face, because 76% of suicides are men, 85% of homeless are men, 70% of homicide victims are men, 40% of domestic abuse victims, which I checked the most recent domestic abuse stats, they hold still. They're still there. And the only thing missing from that really bothers me is the fact that they don't do it by race, but they don't do it by sexuality, which I think is fascinating, because I want to see the number of, because we know that there are a large number of lesbian partners that beat their partner. I want to know if the heterosexual man-woman.
I know
what
what you're talking about.
Yeah. I want to know I want to know if women are also taught not to be violent. There's more here.
Oh no.
Men are the majority. Sorry, go on.
I've read a study, and women actually, a lesbian couple actually has a higher rate of they actually have the highest rate of domestic violence do lesbian women.
Which is
couples.
why, to me, these statistics are, even though it's a government study, it is inaccurate, because it doesn't include some very common and key factors. If 40% of victims are men, bear in mind gay men and domestic, I think they've got the lowest one, don't they? Gay men, male victims?
Yes, gay men actually have. That's what I don't get, is feminists sit there and say, domestic violence is caused by it's caused by men, and they sit there and say
apparently it's caused by dirty diesel dykes.
Yeah, but when you actually sit and look at the statistics, two men in a relationship have the lowest amount of domestic violence.
You know why
out
it
of
is?
Every single group.
You know why it is? Because men just get each other. They know what they want. According to Irate Bear, it's a finger up the bum and a sucking. Men are the majority victims of violent crime. True. Men on average serve 64% longer in prison, which is still true. I remember hearing about this.
Yes.
Somebody said that we should just women should serve only, was it 25% of the time that a man would?
No, they're actually on about closing women's prisons altogether.
Yeah, you can't do that.
And just not sending them to prison for serious crimes.
Yeah, no. Men on average are 3.4 times more likely to be imprisoned than women when both committed the same crime. This is because if a woman has children, she will be given compassion. She'll be shown that anyway, and some leniency.
Yes.
And also, there are other factors like, well, let's not forget that lovely young lady that stabbed her boyfriend in the leg and then texted him while doing so, breaking her probation order. But the judge showed her leniency and let her off with nothing, not even a slap on the wrist, because she was an academic genius and she would go far. But she's doing jack shit.
Which is the same excuse they used for Brock Turner, and yet feminists were outraged by him.
Yeah. The interesting thing really is that she was a drug addict. Do you want that as a surgeon, a neurosurgeon or a heart surgeon nonetheless? No, I wouldn't trust her to operate on a cat's gallbladder.
A dead cat's gallbladder.
I wouldn't trust her to work on a dead cat's gallbladder. I really wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but this nonsense that's still being perpetuated. It's quite sad, really.
And then they sit there and say, there's one person who tweeted out who said, remember on hashtag International Men Day, it's men who rape, not women. Mm-hmm. It's like, women rape too. And someone put that. That's what she went, no, because it's about power and women are less aren't as strong and powerful as men. So yet you don't seem to realise that when you want 50-50 in jobs.
Well, let's read another
or
tweet.
You say
40% of domestic abuse victims are men. Sorry, I don't believe that. Yeah, that's a tweet, by the way. I must have some more. I've got more tweets. Give me a sec. I would read more from the thread of international men's, but I'd have to scroll through the more reasonable people to find the ones that stand out like a sore thumb. All of those.
You might see a few of me on there.
Yeah, probably. All of those stats are there because of men. These are related, by the way, to the image I showed previously with the stats. All there because of men. It's men's fault. Isn't that technically victim blaming?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Genius. Oh, one more. Men are also the majority of homicide perpetrators and the majority of judges, so maybe stop blaming women and try not to kill each other. Right.
And I've just got a reply to me. We face a lot more issues and challenges than men. Stop being sexist.
Well, you are a sexist pig.
But what's that got to do with anything?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like it's a very overused way of skirting the issue.
Yeah.
The point is made, the question is raised. Why not talk about it? Why suddenly look to deflect and ignore, shift the goalposts? There's no intersectional meninism, which would be an amazing parody. Like, instead of, because the idea of intersectional feminism.
Someone should start that.
I coined that trademark, patent pending. The whole point of intersectional feminism is to shift all the resources, according to bell hooks, shift the resources to the group that's most oppressed. Once they are no longer that most oppressed, the resources will then be shifted to the next group. But with intersectional meninism, it'll be the absolute opposite. Resources will be shifted to the most privileged.
So Asian men.
Pretty much. And we'll keep pumping resources into them until they have what they want, which I would assume to be is another 2 inches on their very tiny cocks.
Those poor bastards.
Yeah, they never stood a chance. Surprising how industrious they are. Sex robots? Fucking hell. No one's complaining about the size now. Let's see. Happy International Men's Day. Single dads, you're doing great. Yeah, there's some nice ones here. Let's have a look. I'm trying to find ones that are like... I'm trying to find ones that are the abusive ones, but all I'm getting is the good ones. I assume this is because of people that they're like recommended from follow. So what I'll do...
Yeah, the ones you've got that show nastiness, can you send them to me on Discord? The
images?
Obviously after the stream.
Yeah, I'll just drag them all over to Discord. No, it's fine.
Yeah, because I'm doing a video on it tomorrow.
It's fine.
So I'm trying to gather as many images as I can.
Done. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm trying to find... So what do you... Okay, so because I obviously didn't hear much about this, has there been any discussions in politics regarding men's issues?
Not that I've been aware of, no.
Okay.
International Men's Day is mainly just a way to thank men for their contributions and for the everyday human or the everyday person to sit and talk about issues that face men, from domestic violence to rape and everything in between. But feminists sit there and use it as a thing to blame men for everything that men have wrong with them.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's actually quite the opposite. Like, some things are directly down to feminism. Like, men not being seen as rape victims, directly down to a feminist called Mary Cass.
I have a tweet. I have a glorious tweet. Until all of us are committed to distinguishing biological sex from the constructs of gender and masculinity, #International Men's Day conversations will continue to be cisnormative and transphobic. Please be a Poe. Please be a Poe. Otherwise, this is hilarious. Note you're a K-12 educator and activist. Harvard, yeah.
No, yeah, definitely. Not opposed.
It's legit. Oh my god. Laurie Penny. Patriarchy hurts everyone. Emotional pain is not a competition. Everybody's trauma matters. Feminism isn't to blame for the way men and boys suffer in this society. Cha-ching.
Except it is. Except it is. I mean, a feminist named Mary Cross has literally who influenced America's FBI definition of rape, literally comes out and states that men can't be raped by women. It's technically unwanted contact.
I've put the tweet in the chat for everyone who wants to have a little lol at the expense of, well, that person. Let's see, I'm going to find more because this is brilliant. Excuse me.
Screenshot.
Oh,
Jesus
they're
Christ.
not loading anymore. Oh well. Oh, hang on. Okay, it's hashtag International Men's Day? What kind of MRA bullshit? Oh wait, it's about tackling toxic masculinity? Sure, carry on.
There's no such thing.
I think the word toxic, it has a meaning in life. I would relate it to, I'd associate it with a type of sweet. I'd associate it with a type of cartoon series based around nuclear toxic waste. When you take something like that and attach it to an aspect of masculinity that a minority of people within a rather big society don't like, you start to demonize a very big group of people. You're going up against a... Okay, so if you say toxic masculinity to a regular blue-collar guy, they're just going to tell you to fuck off and get a job. And I know that sounds callous, but that's the truth. I would say it. If someone came up to me while I was at work and said that, I would honestly look them in... I'd square up to them, and then I'd tell them to fuck off. Although I'd have to lean down a little. I'm quite tall.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got.
Now say, I'd need a step ladder.
Yeah. On this International Men's Day, remember that without women, we would not be here. While it's nice to recognise men today, we are not the better sex. No one is saying
that's fine.
that men are the better sex. No one.
No, just that we have issues that we need fixed.
Both sexes have advantages over the other. For example, the brain. Men are supposed to be, by the way, they're supposed to be better at navigation because they use more grey matter, and women are meant to be more compassionate because they use white matter. But that's obviously not always the case.
No, not always. There are outliers to the rule, but in generalities, that's the case. It's also, like, when people sit down and say women are smarter. No, women are actually average. Most women are centred round in the middle of intelligence, whereas there are more men at the back end, obviously the idiots, and more men at the front end.
We call them the peanut gallery.
Yes.
There is another tweet, by the way. Reminder of how toxic hypermasculinity is. Hypermasculinity. They've added, so it was toxic masculinity. Now they've added another word to make it toxic hyper. It sounds like a Pokemon attack. Anyway, reminder of how toxic how toxic hypermasculinity is. Men are socialized to be aggressive and violent. No, we fucking well aren't. Come at me, bro. I'll fucking swing first too. One of the many repercussions. Men die by suicide 3.5 times more often than women because of the violent nature of the weapon they choose. Oh, hashtag gun control now. It's an American one.
Yeah. Well, it's... well, then, if that's the case, then how come the suicide rate is practically universal all the way through the world when it comes to men?
Yeah.
It's like... Thing is, we're not even... what's the word? Socialised to be aggressive. See, that's just what testosterone does.
My father, he was raised in a far... You know, he was raised in like the early mid-60s to 70s. Back then, even then, he wasn't raised to be violent, man. He was raised just to go to work and pay the bills, and that was it. Whereas I grew up in a time where I had the option to study. He didn't have that option. I had the option to excel academically. And I wasn't socialised to beat the fuck out. I was socialised to beat people without resorting to violence. I beat them by being smarter than them. Which, by the way, when you know you've done better than someone else, is a great feeling to rub it in their face.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. Like when I got my qualifications in cooking, I went back to my old secondary school because the teacher at food technology kept failing me, even though I did better than some of the others. I don't think she liked me, and she said I'd never amount to anything. So when I got my qualifications, I walked back to that school, marched in, dropped down the folder full of fucking 20 certificates to say I've got the no qualifications. I just basically went, and you said I'd never become a chef. Well, fuck you. Picked it up and walked out again. Best thing is, it was in the middle of class.
Nice.
It was like, do not tell me I will never get there. I will do it just to spite you.
Okay, so another tweet. I'm going to read one more anyway. It benefits men who fit into the ideal of, quotes, real men. For anyone different or any who behave like, quotes, like a woman, the patriarchy can be damaging. For those who are always, quote, like women, i.e. women that damage is greater, but even men... That doesn't make sense. But even men with damage from it still have advantages from patriarchy. Patriarchy, patriarchy, fucking patriarchy. Glorious. You're all welcome for this, by the way, guys. I love the patriarchy stuff.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I actually, interestingly, last year, Parliament had agreed to discuss the issues, but it never happened. And I remember I checked the minutes. It never happened because of I think it was a terror attack. And as far as I was concerned,
well, that's understandable.
Exactly. Most guys were like, you know, mitigating circumstances here. It goes on the back burner. Yeah. And Diskanar, no, he has not made me a sandwich.
No, I haven't made him a sandwich. Not yet.
Sorry, guys.
Maybe one day if the house is empty, I'll whip up a video.
Yeah.
And send it to him.
Okay, so let's say men's issues get raised in Parliament and in UK Parliament, and the topic first raised is homelessness, not suicide, because I think we'll start with the easier to talk about, the easiest ones to find solutions. How do you think they solve the male homelessness when they go to such extraordinary lengths to prevent women and children? Although I would argue not entirely true, because a mother with a child under 18 months won't be housed with 2 bedrooms, will only get a B&B 1 room, because the baby isn't considered, no joke, alive even, for like 12 months.
Jesus.
Yeah, my sister found this out recently, and I was like, you fucking kidding me?
I mean, when it comes to women, there have been reports that some shelters, now I'm not sure of the validity to this, so don't quote me on it, not 100% anyway, but I have heard that some shelters, like homeless shelters, will physically turn away men. Say if a man and a woman were to go there on a Friday to try and get a shelter spot, there's like one spot open. They will take the woman, take her to get a house and everything she needs, and she'll be in a temporary accommodation by the Monday, whereas on the Friday they'd turn that man away and they'd still be on the street by Monday.
Yeah, we actually have I live in a teeny tiny town, and it's tiny, and and there's actually a homeless. I see him sleeping under the Deal Town Hall, because it has this. It's a build. It's like the entire front isn't there. It's got an under it. I don't know how to explain it. Fuck it. But anyway, this old man sleeping on a park bench, and I'm like, how the fuck is he still on the street? I was out there when he was sleeping in this partially covered sleeping bag, and I wasn't cold, but I could feel it through my hoodie. My jumper was doing a pretty good job keeping it back, but I could feel that. I don't know how that guy could deal with it. And I'm like, how can we not have somewhere? I mean, I know the budget's coming out this week, and it is expected that Hammond will invest $5 billion to build homes. But I know that priority to keep up with current birth rates and also to deal with immigration numbers, it's very hard for priorities to be, well, reasonable. So this guy, I'm sure, is going to be left alone for a long time.
Now, see, I've always wondered this. Why can't they sit and halt immigration? Not stop it, just halt it or thin it down to its bare minimum.
Well, it should be 10,000 a year, apparently.
Yeah, well, that's a reasonable number when you think about it. And take all of the homeless people, not just men, all of them, and put them up in their temporary empty houses until they can get on their feet, get a job, and get a house themselves.
Yeah. See,
because you think you'll get the money back that you invest in them in taxes anyway, once they get a job, once they start paying taxes, once they can start affording to go to shops to pay for things. You'd get the money back.
Yeah, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, though, because cost of living is going up, and it makes it very difficult for anyone to get on top of it, which is where another issue arises. If you're able to wipe the slate clean, like you've got the benefit system in this country is also with universal credit, and there's a 6-week waiting period for you to receive anything. So potentially someone could either lose their... some landlords are already threatening to evict people because they're not going to be able to pay rent for 6 weeks. And that's not their fault. It is an unfortunate part of... It's a terrible idea with regards to welfare to try and make sure the person actually needs the money. I think at that point, for those especially who are single, living alone, who are on these benefits, it is damaging to go that long without having to resort to food banks and begging. Which
at the moment I can't afford to pay my bills at the moment.
I work and I struggle. I remember once.
Yeah,
I remember when I was after uni. For a year I was unemployed. I was on housing benefit and job seekers. It took 2 months to sort out rent, the housing benefit part, and I was living on £5 a week for food. I would live off cuppa soups and reduced. Anytime I found reduced food, and biscuits, which was horrible. I mean, I have a true appreciation of that kind of difficulty for spending that. I lucked out when I got my last job. Because I walked into the job centre when they had a jobs fair and some guy was talking about fixing phones, and I was like, okay, I actually know how to fix phones, and they trained me, and I was like, this is piss easy money.
Yeah.
Fuck it. And that was the end game.
A job's a job.
What do you want? A job. Okay, pay me. Fine.
A job is a job.
Exactly, and that's why even though I'm self-employed, in real life with what I do, and even YouTube to an extent, I mean, I get a little money from ad revenue, not much. I don't really... Obviously, this channel's too small for things like super chat stuff, but I don't really expect it, It's like, it's a... meh. It just happens, if it happens.
I mean, I've completely demonetized my channel since the blue circle thing's been going up.
I haven't.
And this month has been. Pardon?
Sorry, blue circle thing?
Yellow.
Oh, you said blue.
Did I say blue?
You said blue.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I
it's because I was looking at the blue.
I haven't been able to get my. I haven't bothered getting. Nearly all of my videos were hit, and only about 8 of them qualified to be reviewed. but every video since has been approved. So I'm okay, to be honest. But it is a bit like a kick in the teeth to have to waste so much time on it.
I mean, I've sat there and since the yellow circles and dollar signs have hit, I've demonetised my channel until the bot is fixed, because it just wiped out all of my channels.
Okay.
But this month I've earned the most on YouTube that I've ever earned.
Oh, that's
because I've finally passed 1k subs.
Well, congratulations. Since I want to stay on topic a little, okay, so we talked about homelessness, homeless men, and women to an extent. What about, so how, if it got raised in Parliament, and they mentioned that 40% of domestic abuse victims are men, how do you think they would address this? Because they can't blame it on violent crime, because that's not the only factor. Because it's domestic abuse, it's not violent. It's not like, this is where people they seem to get confused. It's like the whole the paedophile argument about, oh fuck it, I had this discussion with ESET and she caught me out, and I made this very elemental mistake by equating a paedophile to a criminal when a paedophile is someone that hasn't committed the crime. It's that same kind of thought process. I don't know where I'm going with that. So what do you think they'd say with the 40%? Do you think they'll try and blame it on male violence when it's not the same thing? Or do you think they'll actually, like, I don't know, legislate rather than... So there's a thing we signed and ratified called the Istanbul Convention. Now, I've made a very lengthy video on this on my channel somewhere.
Yeah, I sat and watched it.
Yeah, you poor thing. And
I know I've got nothing better.
I also know that Spineless Foreskin Cuck made the video on it. And you know, well, I wish he'd left it up. In any case, this whole point about it only really focuses on men and women. Now, I went a bit further. I went through every single bill, every single amendment, every single study that is linked with the Istanbul Convention. There are a lot of them, and every single one of them is titled Women and Children. It doesn't mention men in other countries, and I was concerned if we signed it, that based on the guidelines provided by the EU, that it would water down our numbers to show a wider European numbers which weren't entirely accurate, because every country isn't collecting information accurately or properly. You can't trust other nations to do what we do. No. I'm sorry, Sweden, of all countries, bloody well buries the information. And in fact, in some places, it is just as violent for men and women in the south as it is in other countries. It's ridiculous.
I mean, Sweden and places like that usually bury any data that doesn't confirm or go along with the narrative they've spread of feminism. That's why feminists completely ignore it. I mean, there's a study that Benny usually cites in his videos when he talks about domestic violence. That's of many different case studies of, I think it's like 20,000 people per study, and there's like 130 studies, and he's compressed them all into just one thing so that you can go through them and read at your own leisure. And it effectively shows there's gender parity in domestic violence victims, that they're almost, if not 50-50. I mean, in America, there's one study where they did, whereas 24% of all, let me just bring it up so I don't butcher it, almost 24% of all relationships had some violence, and half, 49.7% of those, were reciprocally, i.e. both partners violent.
Right.
In non-reciprocal violent relationships, women were the perpetrators in more than 70% of the cases. So, in half of all domestic violence cases, it's one person hitting the other, with no self-defense or anything like that. And in 70% of those cases, it's women hitting the man. that gets buried. And
this is why I find it very
on
intellectually dishonest, very disingenuous of the EU to want to have us sign something when we're about to leave. I assume they'd want us to remain a part of the EU courts so that they can enforce this nonsense, which I don't agree with, because it really doesn't take into account all the victims. It only really takes into account, and the language is so badly gendered.
Yeah, I mean, like, our laws here in England are gendered. Both the sexual assault and the rape laws are gendered.
Yeah, I've done
where
enough.
It specifically says
every year. I think I've seen at least one video with somebody setting up a change.org petition or government petition to try and get the rape law changed, and every single time, and
it gets shut down.
Yeah, it gets shut down. It's like, oh, we believe
because I've got the response here from the last one, I think it was.
Was it the one?
And it says, I'm not sure. It says, it is true that under rape, under Section 1 of the Sexual Offences Act 2003, is in a majority of cases committed by a man. Well, when the law is, and here, no, that's wage gap definition. Here we go. A person commits rape in an offence if he intentionally penetrates the vagina, anus, mouth of another person with his penis. It's literally gendered. That's so. Of course, it's going to come back. But
when I did a video on that, I had a comment from somebody saying, "I'm a law student, and this isn't gendered because that's not how the courts treat it." Like, yes, it fucking is, you living bellend.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I tried to put when I put that one out on Twitter, and feminists go to one, and I'm in a taboo with feminists, and they say, "Well, that's not gendered." When I say, "Well, men do 98% of all rapes," it's like, well, if you have I propose a question to them. That's what goes to them. If I say that shoplifting is something that only a woman can commit, who would the data show commits the majority of shoplifting? Mm-hmm. Well, because it's only women by law can do it, then it would show only women do that. But they never come back. I usually get blocked at that point.
Well, this is as bad as the you know, with those newspapers, they report whenever a teacher has taken advantage of a student. The male teacher, it's called rape, but when the female teacher does it, the article will say, has sex with.
Or sex romp, or romantic relationship, or stuff like that.
Yeah, it's really not romantic or sexual. It's not romantic or sexy,
it's
sorry.
Rape.
Oh,
it's rape.
Relevant tweet-ish in Discord. I don't know if if Skog was talking to me. Relevant tweet. Skog, I don't see it.
No, I'm on.
Maybe it's the recommended topics. Here it is. For International Men's Day, remember the Labour MP Jess Phillips laughed at male suicide and opposed a conversation about it. Actually, yes, that's a very good reminder. Jess Phillips is a disgusting human being. Yep.
He's just put underneath it. This one.
Yeah. He'll hear me reading it in a moment, I'm sure. I don't know how long the delay is. Okay, so there are two.
Yeah, it's just getting to that point.
There was two. That was two. Right, 47. Okay. 70% of homicide victims are men.
And the feminists get out of that by saying, yeah, but it's mostly men who do that. Well, yeah, it doesn't negate the fact that men are still the majority of homicide victims.
This could certainly can come down to cultural and oh fuck it, no, I can't. You can't say that. It can be used if the majority of those 70% are committed by men. It doesn't negate the fact that there are still then homicide victims, perpetrators that are female. And it should be a case that everyone needs to be raised to know this is unacceptable. It's like the growing number of acid attacks, knife crime.
Yeah.
It really shouldn't be taught, and people shouldn't be ever enabled to get to a position where they can wield a weapon. Okay, so men on average serve 64% longer in prison, and then which is the men on average are 3.4 times more likely to be in prison than women when both commit sin. Well, fuck it, we'll ignore that one. But this, when men...
No, I've got a study on that one.
Okay, go on.
It shows that in all aspects of the criminal justice system, from pre-arrest to actually going to jail, women face leniency across the board. That's with
equality.
Similar background. Yeah, that's with similar background, same crimes. I mean, like, if I can find it, because I keep most of these saved on my phone, so that I can refer to them quickly. But knowing my luck, I've deleted it, or it's on my old phone. It's on my old phone. Never mind. But it shows that. Oh, never mind. I'll go to my video, because I did a video about this, about the sentencing gap. Pardon me. That means I have to scroll down for a bit.
That's okay. I'll answer this myself for a moment. 64%. Men are average of 64% longer in prison. The answer is quite simple. If two people commit the same crime, there are no mitigating factors. Fuck mitigating factors. The law states quite clearly what happens. Therefore, the sentence is thus, just, whatever. Whatever it is that puts the people in prison for the same amount of time for committing the same crime. That should be it. And I know some people might say, oh, but what if they're just lose the wrong place, wrong time? Fuck them. Judge Dredd the cunt.
Yeah.
This is my view with people who commit crimes. You committed it knowingly, therefore you know what the sentence is. You knew when you were going to commit that crime that you were going to either hurt someone or maybe even hurt people around you. When you made that choice, you gave up your freedom. And you shouldn't be allowed to serve less time than someone else. I mean, if you're given, say you're given a 10-year sentence, potentially out in 5 on good behaviour, I'm okay with that. But there has to be consistency when the review boards come across, or when people go to their reviews or whatever it's called. Either that or just sentence every single perp to death. Really solve the problem. What do you think?
Yeah.
Right.
No, I was just finding the abstract of the thing I was citing. The abstract. This paper assesses gender disparities in federal criminal cases. It finds large gender gaps favouring women throughout the sentence length distribution, averaging over 60%, i.e. 64%. Conditional on arrest, offence, criminal history, and other pre-charge observables. They can all match, and she will still be given a smaller gap, a better plea bargain, less charges.
What a lot of bollocks.
Yeah.
Okay, so Vexed Midget in the chat's written, I cannot stay long, go to sleep. I'm in full support of is single dads who have their kids taken away from them for no reason. Mothers who take away the kids just because they can and make the fathers' lives hell. It's disgusting. I absolutely agree, and I know people who've done this. I grew up with people who become mothers and fathers who are in those positions. It is disgusting. And vindictive.
Yeah, you sit there.
It's like, oh, you're allowed to be vindictive because you're the mother. I don't give a fuck what you are. I really don't. But your kids will see you do that. Either grow up to hate you or become you.
Yeah. And we don't need that kind of negativity in the world. Thing is, you bring this up to feminists about the sentencing gap.
Yeah.
Not sentencing gap, the family court bias against men. And they'll say, yeah, but that's misogyny against women. It's like, how?
Yeah, how?
The women getting the child is based on an old law called the Tender Years Doctrine. It was actually introduced into British law by feminism.
Right.
Feminism literally created the problem it's moaning about now.
Gotcha.
But they're blaming it on men.
Okay. So we'll get the last one on here. 76% of suicides are men. Say hypothetically it's raised in Parliament. How do they address it? How do you think they should as well?
They should address it by showing the causes. The main cause is the fact that men commit suicide like that are the family court bias, not being able to see their kids, etc. The fact that they're not getting enough help, and they're not getting enough help for the simple reason is about 74% of all mental health and research funding goes on to women's stuff.
This is really interesting because the loss of will to live is not the same as toxic male violence, which is what you basically describe. When you're denied the right to see something you love so much, your children,
you lose the will to go on,
or you end up depressed. Depression can lead you down a very dark path depending on how bad it gets. And if you're not able to, if there are no facilities of it, if you're being fleeced by your ex, you're working for them and you're unable to support yourself, you're basically your life is in ruin. And it is your life. You only get one of those. People seem to not understand how important your life is. You only get one life. It's not a video game, okay? We don't get to restart the level. So this is really important. And it's quite astonishing. It truly is astonishing how little people can understand that losing the will to live is not the same as violence.
Oh yeah. I mean, have you seen the Red Pill?
I have, yes.
That case of where the man was just due to go back to court, but the day before he walked out into the desert and killed himself, when the next day it turned out he was going to lose more custody of the little that he had of his daughter to begin with.
Yeah.
I had to pause the video because that made me cry.
Didn't make me cry, but I don't understand why it would. It's just very cold, and it's very hurtful. There has to be. This is a very centrist thing to say, but there has to be a middle ground. There has to be.
There has to be. Yeah, there has to be.
You don't get to. You don't get to simply be biased in one way and expect that to be absolutely fine. It's damaging.
And
the numbers
I want a 50-50 shared parenting all across the board from the get-go. But in America and around the world, every time one of those bills gets proposed, the NOW, now, National Organisation for Women, the biggest feminist organisation in the world, opposes it. Women and feminism literally opposes shared parenting. Yet they sit and moan that women are seen as the caregivers and that they get the majority of custody.
Yeah.
It's like, if you stopped pushing away and shutting down shared parenting bills, then you wouldn't get majority of custody. You'd get 50-50 right from the get-go. But then you get vexed midget. Some reason they go with the idea that mothers are better for the kids for loving nature, when in reality, mothers are actually the biggest child abusers on the planet.
Actually, that is something often overlooked, and I find it quite fascinating that it never gets talked about. How can you not? How do people not understand this?
Because feminism spins it as, of course, women are going to get be the biggest amount of abusers because children are with their mothers more.
Yeah.
They bring it back round to women are the choice. Women are the victims.
Yeah. So, how do you think Parliament should deal with this?
For a start, they should address it.
Yeah. I don't personally like it when Theresa May or any politician stands up and says, I recognise the importance of the issue. Recognise, I don't know, that word is so patronising.
There's recognising and then there's doing something about it.
Yeah. There has to be, you have to show that you're willing to do something about it. If you just say, I recognise the problem, all you do is acknowledge it exists, but your action, your inaction, is damning. And I think that's quite sad. Because this is, well, in the 2.5 years I've been on YouTube, this will be the third Happy Patriarchy Day, by the way, to everyone. This will be the third Patriarchy Day I've experienced, and I just haven't seen many men's issues talked about. There hasn't been from very nice people on Twitter and the rather disgusting people on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I try to talk about as many men's issues as I can. But I've started doing more on my channel anyway. But it's hard to sit here and write those videos.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Because you just don't know what to put.
And no, Vex Midget, you don't need to divulge any stories. You can keep the manipulative mother stories. It's all good. Because I don't know if there's much else Kay and I can talk about. I might end this. If that's okay with you, Kay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, well, Happy Patriarchy Day. Enjoy the remaining hour and a half of it. Okay?
Yes.
Say goodbye.